Why not continue to do my videos just as the sun sets and and the videos become darker and darker because it seems to be such a dark and gloomy time. Sorry, there's a little bit of headroom, but I don't know whether to adjust it. I'm adjusting it, sorry, as awful as this looks. Actually, let's just do the video. Tomorrow at 2:05 p.m. Pacific time, so in less than 24 hours, we have the full moon in the sign of Aries. And the title of this video is so strange and so odd, and as I was looking at the astrology, I can only hope that what I'm about to say is true. Yesterday on the 29th, we had two challenging aspects, and we certainly felt them. Not only was the presidential debate a disaster, but the news out of India, both in terms of violence towards people who belong to a lower caste and certainly violence towards women, it just continued in the most disturbing of ways. The sun was opposite Chiron and Mars squared Saturn. The sun is in Libra, Chiron in Aries, Mars in Aries, in a sign it rules, and Saturn in Capricorn, a sign it rules. The full moon is in the sign of Aries, Aries being this rather violent, rather grabby sign when it is not appropriately expressed, rather fiery. Irrespective, yesterday was certainly not. Yesterday was a violent day. Let's just call it what it is. Okay, whether it was violent in a truly calculated and premeditated way, whether it was violent because of a blundery, blustery, and I'm talking about the debate here. It may have been unintentionally violent, but the violence was present. It was there. Let's just put it that way. However and wherever we sit, in terms of what it evoked. And the transits, and depending on which side of the political spectrum you sit on, you experience this violence in different ways, either as a reaction or in terms of what someone says, blah, blah, blah. Yesterday was certainly not a peaceful or a harmonious day. The sun is not happy in the sign of Libra. This is surprising because Libra as a sign has a reputation for being so happy and so harmonious and so happy-go-lucky and so balanced and so brilliantly gorgeous that, you know, you almost think, why would any planet have a difficult time being in the sign of Libra? But the sun is about unqualified, you know, your inner truth, your subconscious truth, your authentic self. And Libra as a sign is about the other person. It's about beauty and harmony in relationships, and the focus is on the other person. So the sun is already not entirely comfortable. The sun likes to shine through your soul on your behalf. The sun is less preoccupied with shining on the other person. We let the moon do that kind of shining. The moon would be happy in Libra. By the same token, the moon, the full moon in Aries, is a notoriously unhappy moon. I think the right word to use is a discontented moon, a frustrated, irritable moon. Aries is a sign that is about our desire and our assertion, and the moon is a feminine planet that has to do with feelings, and her intuition and her sense of equilibrium is easily rocked. The moon seeks contentment and stability, and Aries is not a content or a stable sign. And the moon in Aries is notorious for being able to identify problems and issues and being irritable and almost, again, violent and short-tempered and just discontent. Not a happy moon. So full moon in Aries is a notoriously challenging full moon. This year's full moon, however, and even though the moon is still, as I'm doing this video currently in Pisces, and yesterday when these transits were occurring were in Pisces, you feel the build up to the full moon in Aries. It's an important full moon. And typically you'll feel the full moon in Aries 48 hours before and 24 hours after. But this is a full moon that I at least have been feeling, because I know where it's going to happen in my chart, for a good week, 5 days at least. And it's restless, and it's irritable, and it's angry, and it is not a good full moon for relationships, because the planets that should be in opposite signs are in opposite signs. We should have the sun in Aries and the moon in Libra. We've got the sun in Libra and the moon in Aries. But there is this one thing going on with this full moon, that as these awkward and stressful aspects happen, violent aspects happen, before we get to pardon me, this particular full moon. Just before the full moon occurs, the moon conjuncts Chiron. And Chiron is in Aries for a few years, trying to achieve healing. But Chiron's way of achieving healing is to re-expose you to the wound, is to make you feel the wound again, as an adult, as a grown-up person, as someone who's retracing these steps and saying, what needs to be healed here? Well, the only way it's going to be healed is now based on everything that you know and are consciously aware of. And what we are consciously aware of, God willing, increases as we grow older. Let's now examine this part of the chart, wherever Aries sits in your chart, what house it occupies, and let's revisit where you are hurting here. Never pleasant, but it's the only way those wounds can heal, through a sense of discovery, through a sense of stimulus, through a sense of understanding why you're wired the way you're wired. How far back does this go? How do you unwire yourself and untrigger yourself in this part of the chart so that you don't hurt so much? The bizarre thing about this full moon is that it has a very intense lead up, but the full moon itself tomorrow at 2:05 p.m. comes just after the moon conjuncts Chiron. And so, is this just wishful thinking on my part? Could it actually provide a small window of healing? One cynical approach to this, or one more negative, and let's see how the next 24 to 48 hours go. The sun opposed Chiron yesterday. And God knows, if we wanted to talk about exposing wounds, the sun opposes something, it lights it up completely. That's a spotlight. The sun opposes the moon tomorrow. It's a full moon. We had a full Chiron yesterday, while Mars and Saturn were squaring each other. Planet of violence and planet of digging your heels in. So with a full Chiron and the moon conjuncting Chiron just before the full moon, the more negative or challenging as result of this full moon is going to be that whatever was exposed yesterday, there's a visibility that's placed on it. There could be an emotional explosiveness. There could be an emotional sense of the cup boiling over, or the bowl boiling over, the milk boiling over. There could be catharsis. There could be meltdowns. There could be reactivity. There could be anger. There could be frustration. The full moon could again thrust this Sun-Chiron opposition into the spotlight even more. Chiron in and of itself, however, is not a violent body. And so my hope and prayer and my instincts are asking us to allow for the space of a certain amount of healing tomorrow. Whatever the big ticket items are that we're dealing with, whether it's the news that is coming out of India with regard to violence towards women, and I'm not going to give specific descriptions here because the specifics are way too disturbing, way too aggravating, and whatever it is that happened yesterday politically. The larger question, the purpose of these videos for me is always what is happening with this full moon in our chart. If you have found that the last 4 or 5 days have brought matters to a head in some part of your life, it's likely to be in a part of your life where Aries sits in your chart. And it's very likely and possible that it's where Aries sits in your chart, what house it occupies, and what relationship that house stands for. So if it's the 9th house, it could be the father. Some people put the father in the 10th house. I put it in the 9th house. If it's the 4th house, it could be the mother. If it's the 7th house or the 8th house, it could be a spouse or a business partner. If it's the 5th house, it could be a child. If it's the 3rd house, it could be a sibling or a neighbor. If it's the 11th house, it could be a friend. If it's the 12th house, it could be a hidden conspiratorial enemy. I don't know. You, if you know your chart, it's not only very likely where Aries sits in your chart, it is what relationship that house signifies, where something may have been coming to a head through a certain amount of anger, irritation, discontent over the past 5 days. It wouldn't surprise me if you have had words or tried to gain greater understanding only to feel like the entire exercise was futile and frustrating. Still feels frustrating. The answers are not here yet. Part of it is that overall answers aren't going to be here till the middle of November or to December. But still, the kind of answers we're looking for out of this frustrating situation where we're trying to get clarity is not there. Is it possible that tomorrow, as we head towards tomorrow, with this full moon, the moon might actually, uncharacteristically in Aries, somehow cast a healing light. I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. Certainly, as I've said, one approach could be the sun opposed Chiron yesterday. The moon is going to light it up just before she goes full, and we could have further meltdowny, irritable, violent, short-tempered, angry, not content outbursts and realizations and visibility, completions, conclusions. The moon is full. But in certain cases, it might be a momentary truce. Everybody stand down. I'm not going to use the word stand back. Because it's not, if it is healing, it's not a standing back. It is a standing down. It is a pulling back. It is a pulling away. It might mean, actually, in some ways when it comes to relationships, it could mean not a compromise, but an acceptance of what is. And this is an interesting idea. The idea of no longer resisting and accepting something. You know, someone told me about this TV show that Kevin Costner is doing. I don't know what it is, sort of this Western, I truly don't know. He's doing it right now. And there was a line in it that was quoted to me, which is, we can only expect anyone to show up as themselves. So this idea that people should show up as somehow different from who they are is really, it's a very full moon in Aries sentiment. You know, I'm going to change this. This is not working for me. This has to change right now. We've got to fix this. We've got taking up of arms. And maybe with the sun in Libra and moon in Aries tomorrow, as we head towards tomorrow, just the idea that we probably need to stop expecting people to show up as different as they are provides a window or an understanding or perhaps an ability to focus on the issues and the wounds that need healing, as opposed to individuals who are somehow becoming focus points of larger issues. Mars is retrograde in Aries. Wherever and whatever is showing up in Aries can't be ignored as just a full moon thing. You know, full moons happen every 28 days. It's not just this full moon is going to happen and we're going to, you know, Mars is here retrograde till November the 13th, then it goes direct, it goes all through Aries again till the beginning of January. Whatever it is that is coming up in the second half of this year with this full moon that may bring some insight, some completion, some visibility, some irritability, some violence, some frustration, some acceptance. It's not acceptance and tolerance of things that we should not be tolerating. It is an acceptance and a lack of resistance towards what is. I can't say it any other way. As I'm saying it, I'm realizing how powerful that is. I don't know if it's going to come across. Once that is in place, we can actually deal with something. Once that is in place, we can actually deal with something. If that is not in place, I don't know what we're dealing with. You can't deal with anything. You're just in a space of full moon in Aries frustration all the time. So bizarrely, this video is going to be titled Healing. And I'm going to let each of us make of that what we will. But the full moon is not just, it's not an eclipse, but it's not just a regular full moon. It's in a sign that is highly active and that is trying to usher in the future as we head towards January, and is creating a conflict-like stimulus between where the eclipses have been since the middle of July 2018 till the end of the year, spurring that work to get completed, challenging that work to get completed. And right now Mars is retrograde in there, so as it is, there's a need for reflection in this part of the chart. So this full moon highlights something that we should be reflecting on. The direction of the arrow will not change, but there's a pulling back. There's a, oh, okay, can we understand which direction we're going in? Can we talk about which direction we're going in? we can start moving in that direction again after November the 13th. All right, I will leave it at that. If you like this video, found it useful, feel free to share it, like it, comment on it. Likes and comments give it greater circulation on YouTube. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. If you click the subscribe button, click on the bell icon next to the subscribe button so you're notified whenever I do new videos. My contact information is in the subject area, in description box below. Sorry, I'm scratching myself because I'm getting eaten by mosquitoes. Oh, Los Angeles, what has happened to you climate-wise? My contact information is in the description box, so please feel free to reach out to me if you're interested in inquiring about rates for readings or want me to make an easy-to-read version of your chart that tells you which sign is in which house and what that house stands for. Do not share your personal information with me, like your birth date, just yet. Inquire about rates, be happy, and decide whether you want to avail of my services, and then we can exchange more information. I will leave it at that. Try to recover this violent full moon, or this full moon, or this discontented full moon as best you can. And more to follow. All right.